well on our way to the 7th of December where we're going to be casting our vote. I'm sure a lot of people are excited because we get to make the decision as to who is going to take up the mantle to lead us in the next 4 years. But it's important to know exactly where to place your vote, and that's why Flex Your Vote is here for you, made or curated by 3 Music TV in order to help you know where to place that vote. We have amazing people coming through from some of the political parties to talk to us about their policies, their plans, and what exactly they're going to be doing for us if they're given power. Today is going to be no different. I have an amazing guest here with me. Before I introduce him, I have Kujo Trip and Amy with me. They are the constants. You already know them, so it's okay. But before I introduce this guest, I want us to go on a quick commercial break. When we get back, it's Flex Your Vote time.
From Germany to Ghana, 100 years later, Lowy is here. Upgrade your home entertainment today with our top-of-the-line electronic gadgets and sound systems. Lowy provides television sets and speakers for your favorite space. Experience crystal clear picture and sound quality, bringing your favorite shows and movies to life with our state-of-the-art sound system that puts you right in the middle of the action. Cutting across generations and demographics, Lowy provides the quality, efficiency, and timelessness you desire, while at the same time offering over-the-top value. We see you, we hear you, we build together at home, work, gym, and everywhere else. The clangs stay with you, creating a pleasurable listening experience and environment, bringing you closer to the world in full color. For a brand that will stay with you today, tomorrow, and always. Revel in the magic of Lowy. Contact 0201 957 739.
You're welcome back. It's still Flex Your Vote, where we're going to be having amazing conversations leading to December 7th. Today, I have a great representative of the NDC here. I have lawyer Sammy Gyamfi, the National Communications Officer of the NDC. Sir, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, how are you feeling? I think this is your first time in our studios. What do you think about our studios?
I'm still admiring your very beautiful studio.
That's good news for us. You've complimented us. We love it.
This is the best studio I've entered.
You know what? Thank you. Yeah.
Like the umpteenth
for us.
I'm happy to be here on Flex Your Vote.
Yes.
Thanks for the invitation. Yeah.
Thank you so much as well. Now, before we get into the main conversation, we want to know, in your stable, in your court, how are preparations, going towards the December 7th?
Well, so far so good. The campaign trail of the NDC has been a massive success. And here I'm talking about the main campaign teams, that of the flag bearer, the running mate, our national chairman, and other national officers like my good self. The feedback has been very positive. The reception we have enjoyed across the length and breadth of Ghana has been very warm. And it is very clear from what we're seeing on the ground that the NDC is going to win this election resoundingly come 7th December 2024. So we are on track. Everything is going according to plan. Our message, in my humble opinion, is being received by the general public. And I have no doubt in my mind that change is coming.
Change is coming. Okay, we're going to find out if about your policies and see if other people who probably haven't changed their mind towards your lane will change their minds. Now, Flex Your Votes is that ministered for the young people, because if you paid attention to activities that have taken place before the election, that the youth are really involved, especially in this particular election, because a lot of us are unhappy about a lot of things, and so we would love to make things better for ourselves. As to where to place their vote, I'm sure people will have their own mind or whatever they're going to do. But I want us to talk about one of your major policies that I feel like a lot of people need explanation on, or a better breakdown for, to the simplest level, the 24-hour economy. There are lots of questions that will come up, but if you can break it down in the simplest form, what does that mean?
Well, it simply means one job, 3 shifts, 3 people.
Okay.
And that is what some have called Formula 1-3-3.
Okay.
One job, 3 shifts, 3 people. It is so in the advanced jurisdictions, and John Mahama is saying that it is possible for Ghana to have an economy that provides jobs round the clock to increase productivity, production, and create well-meaning, well-paying, sustainable jobs for especially the teeming unemployed youth of Ghana. You see, extraordinary times require extraordinary policies for extraordinary results. We are not in normal times as a country. This is the first time in the history of Ghana that our nation has defaulted on its public debt obligations. For the first time in our history, we've become insolvent or bankrupt. We can't even service our debts. For the first time in the history of our country, our total tax revenue is going into just 2 or 3 things: compensation, the salary of public sector workers, the servicing of debts, and statutory payments, which is even in arrears for many, many years. Okay. Now, that should let you know that we are not in normal times. We are in an extraordinary crisis, one which is not being experienced by any of our neighboring countries. And John Mahama and the NDC are saying that because of the peculiar challenges we have on our hand, we cannot continue to do the same things over and over again and expect different results. Okay. The 8-hour work shift system is not adequate to bring Ghana out of the economic quagmire we currently find ourselves. We need to work hard. And so if God has given us 24 hours in a day, we can't just work 8 hours and use 16 hours for any other thing. We need to make good use, judicious use of all the 24 hours in a day. So under the next NDC Mahama government, private companies will be given the needed tax incentives, financing support, security support services, and cheaper power. The public institutions will also be given the necessary support to be able to run 24/7. How are we going to do it? We're going to divide the work shift into 3 of 8 hours each. 8 times 3 gives you 24. So one person goes to work. So let's say you go to work at 8 a.m. and then you close after 8 hours, which is 4 p.m. My brother here goes to work at 8 p.m. and at 4 p.m. and closes at 12 a.m., which is 8 hours. Then my sister can go to work at 12 a.m. and close at 8 a.m. So one job, you have 3 people doing it based on 3 shifts. So where you went to seek a job and you were told that there was no vacancy, chances are that under the 24-hour economy, there will be a vacancy because there will be 2 additional shifts. Okay. This is how John Mahama seeks to transform the structure of our economy, okay, and increase productivity, production, and jobs. The more we work for more hours, the more we will produce more, not only for consumption domestically, but even for exports. The more hours we work, the more productivity we become as a country. And productivity is the most essential ingredient for the economic transformation of every nation. So 24-hour economy is actually a no-brainer. It is very simple to understand. It is only mischievous partisan characters who deliberately don't want to understand, who seek to ridicule it. But those who have lived in advanced jurisdictions, if you lived in New York, 24-hour economy is no news to you because there people have 2 jobs. Some have 3 jobs. Some work in the night. Yeah. Even students who go to school in the morning are able to work in the evening. Yeah. Take, for example, the current leader of the NPP, the vice president. When he was schooling in Canada, he tells us that he was working in the night. how could that be possible? Because in Canada, businesses work round the clock. So he should even be excited. That system that allowed him to school and at the same time work is being brought to Ghana. And so this is something good for Ghana. And we must all get to the point where we embrace good ideas irrespective of the political party putting that idea forth.
Well, I think that everyone here would agree. We have a lot of questions because we think that it's a very laudable initiative, considering the fact that, like you said, it would afford several people who are currently unemployed the opportunity to also, better themselves, contribute to the economy, amongst other things. But I think when you began making your submission, one of the things or the keywords that you used was the fact that this is very prevalent in advanced jurisdictions, which means that before an idea would work, there have to be certain structures and systems put in place, for that to actually be effective in its operations, I guess. First of all, I would like to point out that we do not currently have the systems here. And that's one of the things I want to find out for you. How feasible do you think that the 24-hour economy is in Ghana? That's number one. Number two is, I beg your pardon, is it blanketed? Is it in every sector that this 24-hour economy is going to function in or take place in, or is it certain specific sectors? Also, if we're talking about a 24-hour economy, I think that for our health sector, for example, they practice the shift system.
So can we take your questions one after the
other? So
what's your first question?
My first question is, how feasible do you think it is, since this is prevalent in advanced jurisdictions and we are not? Yes,
Okay, so can we drill down to specifics by saying structures which may be non-existent in our context? What specifically do you have in mind?
I'm talking about first of all, in the various sectors that there are, we don't have, for example, she's going to, like you talked about the shift system, she's going to work at 12 a.m., coming back at 8 a.m., the security measures put in place. What's the, because it's dark, so she's coming.
Okay.
What are the structures?
So now, so if that is what you mean by structures, then I get your question. And the answer is very simple. Why is it that in those advanced jurisdictions, they have the structures to allow for round-the-clock operations by businesses and even some government institutions, the structures to allow for people to work in the night? It is because leaders in those countries have actually put in place those systems and structures. So it is all a function of leadership. The rest is effect. Leadership is cause. Any other thing is effect. So, for example, if we look at the structure of security, John Mahama has said that it's very simple for us to do that. We are going to put together a public-private security architecture to provide security for all entities, companies, businesses, public institutions that will sign up to the 24-hour economy system. So, when we come into office, we are not just going to announce that we are rolling out 24-hour economy and that will be it. First of all, the labor law will be reviewed. We are going to pass first of its kind Unemployment Act, which is going to provide a legal framework and a regulatory framework for the 24-hour economy.
But
hold on. And businesses who want to roll onto it, public institutions who want to sign up to it, will then sign up to it. Now, when you sign up to it, government will then provide you with the necessary security services. So John Mahama has said that for this to work, we need a minimum of 25,000 police officers recruited. So we're going to recruit that. And there will be work for them to do, so they are going to be productive. Okay. And the state is going to get value from that.
How are they going to be paid? Since you're now, and we want to know, is it right when you come into government that this is going to happen?
The framework for the 24-hour economy policy implementation will be put in place within our first 90 days in office. So if you look at John Mahama's 120-day social contract, it is top on the list. It's one of the things that we'll be doing immediately.
So where are we getting this money to pay these police people who are going to be working, or anybody who is going to be recruited to work to ensure security?
Okay, so now you pay workers based on the revenue that every nation generates. Okay, now when businesses that are operating 8 hours decide to operate 24 hours, government revenue will go up. For example, if you have a manufacturing company manufacturing biscuits, and within an 8-hour shift, hypothetically speaking, they manufacture 1,000 cartons of biscuits. If they add 2 more shifts, hypothetically speaking, you can surmise that the quantity of boxes of biscuits they produce will move from 1,000 to 3,000.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now that means that the company will be getting more revenue, and therefore, in terms of the corporate taxes, the income taxes they pay, and other forms of revenue the states get from that will be on the increase. So there is a direct connection or bearing between the 24-hour economy and increased revenue.
Okay, but you're now
and so
starting.
The payment,
You're now going to start it.
Yeah.
So before it takes off,
yeah.
where you know that we have this money coming from here to be able to
Make
pay
those
these
payments,
people,
yeah.
how are you going to pay them before then?
No, you see, governance is all about priorities. There is ample revenue to pay those 25,000 police officers. We have more than that, even with the bankrupt economy we have today. Now, think about it. You've seen that hole that has been dug by Akufo-Addo and Bawumia for God in the name of building him a house. You've seen that? You know the cost of that? Yeah. That is some $58 million. In today's exchange rate terms, you're talking about more than 1 billion Ghana cedis. Yeah. In old Ghana cedis terms, that is more than 10 trillion Ghana cedis. Imagine the number of people who can be paid with this amount of money, and for the number of years they can be paid with it. This is just one example of how the precious resources of states are being abused with impunity, or misplaced priorities, wasteful expenditures, when they could have been channeled into productive ventures like the 24-hour economy. So at the beginning stage, it's just like any venture. You invest, but if the venture is viable, it will give you the necessary returns to sustain it and to even benefit from it. So at the beginning stage, government will have to do the heavy lifting. Government will have to invest. It is so with any government policy. But after the gestation period of the policy, when you begin to see the benefits of the policy, you will see that revenue will be going up. The GDP, you see, when we say GDP, why are we bankrupt today? It's because the percentage of our debt as compared to our GDP. The GDP is a gross domestic product. It is the sum total of all the incomes of Ghanaians and businesses in Ghana. Now, once they begin to run 24 hours, and what they are producing doubles or triples, your GDP is going to double and triple. So this debt which we cannot pay today now becomes small as compared to that increased GDP. That will translate into more revenue. Okay. So then you can clearly see that the policy is viable, it can pay for itself, it is sustainable, and it will benefit. So just to end so that you come in again, government is going to provide that security architecture. There are going to be security patrols in town to make it safe for people to be able to operate in the night. There are going to be security patrols at the premises of all entities who will sign up onto the program. So those measures will be put in place. And not just security.
But about security, we see that there's an influx of, police in town with the incumbent governments. Don't we have that already? Don't you think we have the apparatus already?
No.
You don't think we do?
You see, first of all, we are not just talking about security officers standing in town for visibility purposes. And when you are driving, they will put on their torchlights, look in there. I don't want to talk about the many other things that happen. Okay, and then you go. Yeah. No, that's not the kind of security we are talking about. If businesses are going to be operating in the night, there must be security presence at their premises. Okay. Our streets must have serious security patrols. And you see, the 24-hour economy, enlightened, very important. The 24-hour economy policy is even going to ensure that these officers in the night who are just roaming the streets in a redundant way, many of whom don't really have much doing, get something to do. So it's going to make them productive. Because you're not just going to be standing in one corner waiting for a vehicle to pass so that you put on your torch to look in there. But because businesses are operating in the night, there will be work for you to do. Patrol services at the right places. Okay. So security will not be an insurmountable challenge. But bear in mind that even without 24-hour economy, we have a security we have security challenges.
Yeah.
Okay. Even in New York, security is an issue. That's the city that never sleeps. So security, you can never have a crime-free society. The most important thing is for citizens and the general public to feel safe and secured because they know that there is an institution. There are men in uniform on the streets, at their workplaces, looking out for them.
And it's being managed.
Okay. I still want to take your question because your follow-up question was talking about which specific industries would the economy, the 24-hour economy, be looking at. Also, you mentioned sign-ups. So does it mean that, especially in the private sector, people will have to decide whether to go with the 24-hour economy policy or not? And for those who decide not to go with it, what happens?
No, you see, even in New York, not every business runs 24/7.
Okay.
So you run 24/7 based on what you're producing and based on the demand for what you're producing, which therefore makes sense for you to run the clock. So it is not every government institution that will be mandated to run 24/7.
But does it include private institutions?
Yes, it is both public and private. Now for government, what is the criteria?
Yeah.
With a starting point will be public institutions with huge consumer or customer traffic.
Okay.
Which means that the demand for their services is there, but they are unable to meet it. So there is a huge workload and a huge customer traffic. For example, it is a right in every country for every citizen to get a passport.
Yes.
But today in Ghana, even with online passport application, introduced by the ex-Wal NDC Mahama government in 2016, forget about what the liar says, okay? People apply for passports and it takes them 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. Why? Because there is a huge traffic there. Why? Because passport office is running 8 hours, and even the 8 hours, they don't go early. You know, the bureaucracies in the systems and the productivity challenges there. They go for break, instead of 1 hour, it is 2 hours. So the time for the processing of those applications is very limited. So an institution like Passport Office, another institution, DVLA, people should be able to get driver's license anytime they apply for that. But in Ghana, you apply for a driver's license, you have to keep on following. It takes forever. And you even sometimes have to go and pay bribes to Guru boys.
But
lawyer, exactly.
Yes, and that is why it must be fixed. It cannot continue like that. The only way you can see transformation is when you solve these problems through policy.
But the NDC has been in government before, and it wasn't fixed.
Still the same. So
no, you see, governance is a continuum.
Okay.
Life is progressive. Now, you've been living on this earth for maybe some years. I'm sure, definitely more than 20 years, right?
Yes.
Now, there are many things that you could have done last year.
True.
That you might not have done, but with the benefit of hindsight and experience, you're doing this year.
Yes.
Yes. So that is the benefit you get with an experienced leader who has been there before, who knows what the challenges are, and who has had opportunity to sit back, reflect, and come back with better solutions to problems that have been dealt at for ages.
Okay.
So for even in New York, there were times that they didn't have 24-hour economy. Sydney just adopted a 24-hour economy strategy.
You know,
London adopted a 24-hour economy strategy not too long ago. So why didn't London say that, oh, we've been here for a long time, these problems are here, so why are we... You must always, you see, policies are formulated or created to address challenges. So don't forget that I told you that extraordinary times require extraordinary policies for extraordinary results. Never has there been this urgent imperative for us to have a 24-hour economy like we have now. Okay. Because who would have thought that Ghana would have defaulted on its debt obligations? Well, you understand? So if we want to increase our GDP and generate more revenue to service our debt, to employ, give people jobs, be able to pay them, to be able to undertake developmental projects, we need something like this at this time.
Okay, now I'd like us to move on to another policy, something that you
he had another question. It's okay. It's okay to talk about 24-hour economy.
No,
I can always come back and talk about something else.
No, but
No.
you know, we
have-
also like to touch on education.
Yes.
Education because it's also important.
I mean, we have
But
read the
are you
policies.
okay with 24-hour
No,
economy?
although I still have a few questions
Yeah.
on that.
So can we clear your outstanding question maybe in 2 minutes?
Okay, so I wanted to find out. You sound
It's
very
so dear to me for the
Yeah.
audience. 24-hour economy is
okay.
dear to me.
You sound very optimistic about, the 24-hour economy, which means that you have definitely done your risk assessments. You've done what potential challenges you might face. And then I think that in previous interviews and stuff that I've seen, the NDC and then sometimes you have been proponents of the idea that the free SHS is actually a very laudable initiative, but the execution of it is what was the problem. So what are some of the challenges that you have identified that you might face with the 24-hour economy, and because so far we've only been talking about the positives and everything.
Let me be very brief on this so that we can move to the other issues.
Right.
You see, I'm very happy that you spoke about all the assessment and analysis we've done. Let me make it clear. 24-hour economy is not a manifesto promise of the NDC. It is more than that. Because even before the NDC could dream of a 24-hour economy policy to become a political matter, the states, through the National Development Planning Commission, NDPC, in 2016, had already thought of a 24-hour economy strategy for economic transformation and job creation, and have captured it in Ghana's 40-year development plan. The 40-year development plan is for Ghana, not for a political party.
Right.
Yet, the NDPC, the people who work there are not political actors like myself.
Right.
They work for the state. They had thought about this policy. They knew that that was the way to go, and they captured it in the 40-year development plan. Now, there is no policy without challenges. Every policy, every action you take in life will have challenges. But the responsibility of good leaders is to identify these challenges and to address them. Challenges will come. You're going to have, in economics, there is something we call market failure, okay? Right. People will try to take advantage of the incentives out of the policy without necessarily running 24 hours. People will try to use the same workforce for additional shifts without paying overtime and all that. We know of all these challenges, but there is a way to address it. You address it through policy, effective regulation, and the enforcement of the rules. And you can trust the experienced, tried and tested nation builder, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, to do just that.
Okay. You have another question?
I just had a follow-up question. Just one last one before we go. So 133, that's the new formula, right? Because currently the formula is just one. So we have 133. Now, isn't that 133 a representation of the fact that salaries are also going to be slashed? Because although you speak,
it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Not from you. Yeah. I heard it from one MPP guy on the campaign platform.
Although you mentioned that that would lead to an increased productivity. And productivity, productivity.
It's not going to lead to the slashing of salaries in advanced jurisdictions.
But I think this is a very important question because aside partisan and all of that, some people have actually mentioned to me that they are worried that the job you're already doing doesn't even give you enough. And now you have to share the job with 2 other people. What does that mean for you? See,
you're still going to do your job intact 8 hours. Someone else is going to do another job 8 hours. Another person is going to do another job 8 hours. Now, because there are 2 additional shifts, in some places they may not even have to employ another person. Right. You may have the opportunity to do overtime. And the new Employment Act is going to ensure that for overtime, you get paid for overtime. So your chance of even improving your remuneration is the 24-hour economy, because you are now being paid based on 8 hours. The current labor law does not allow anybody to employ you for more than that. It has to be reviewed, even though that law is not being enforced.
And currently, overtime, people work overtime, but they are not
being
paid for overtime.
But after the 24,
so while we have a current problem of people not being paid for overtime, how then are you able
because you don't even have a legal regime that ensures that people are paid overtime. That is why you need a new Employment Act under the anchored on the 24-hour economy policy. And we are going to have 24-hour economy secretariats, officials, monitoring, supervising, enforcing the rules. But currently that system is non-existent. So under 24-hour economy, The one job you're doing, you get to do that job. You get to get your salary, but you get opportunity to do overtime because there are additional shifts. You even get the opportunity to do another job at another place.
Oh, yeah.
So if you are doing an office job somewhere for 8 hours and you have the energy to do a night job somewhere, you can take up a night job somewhere. So you can have 2 jobs. You can have 3 jobs.
Right.
Like it applies in advanced jurisdictions. Then finally you asked, but I didn't touch on it, so let me touch on it and let's make progress.
Okay.
It's about the sectors. The public sector is going to be institutions with huge customer traffic, meaning there is demand.
Yeah.
So passport office, DVLA, the ports,
Our
customs,
hospitals.
and all that. The hospitals
They're
operate
given-
24/7 to some extent. But once businesses, the activities in the night increase, there will be more work for the hospitals because a lot more people will access health facilities. And therefore, the number of people who are deployed during night shifts will automatically increase because the activeness of the population in the night would have increased. And therefore, they will need more hands. So those are the institutions. For the private institutions, we have said that there will not be any limits. Construction, but special focus on agro-processing, manufacturing. Okay? When you go to the advanced jurisdictions, you see roads being constructed in the night.
Yeah.
Sanitation companies working in the night. You see factories working in the night because there is demand for what they are producing. There is demand for rice. There is demand for tin tomatoes. There is demand for oil. There is demand for iron rods. There is demand for tiles. There is
Raw
demand for
materials.
all these things. Yeah, these businesses are running 8 shifts because there is no deliberate government policy to support them by reducing their cost of operation so that they can run 24/7 and produce more to meet local demand and even exports.
Right.
So 24-hour economy is going to make sure that by giving you tax incentives, cheaper power through time of use tariffs and all that, financing support, your cost of production becomes less.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to add additional shifts, produce more to meet the existing local demand and even export. That is the only way Ghana can see true transformation.
I hope that, with everything that you've said, we've been able to convince people out there. Because one of the things, one of the key policies that you have or presented with the 24-hour economy,
Yeah.
and a lot of us are jobless. A lot of us are not earning enough money to cater to, our needs as human beings, like basic survival needs.
Yeah.
So I hope that hopefully, you've been able to convince others. But there's still more that we need to get into.
We need to get into way more. But I know we have a lot of questions about this. But there's, like we said, there's other important things. Now I want us to move on to education. Talking about the NDC improving the quality of the already implemented free SHS, and also in addition paying the tuition of level 100 students, if I'm right, for tertiary. Right now, my question is, first off, how are we going to improve the quality? We already know the situation on ground, but what is the NDC going to do differently that's going to improve that quality? Are we considering all the schools going all the way to the villages with bad roads? Are we considering everyone in this? And also with the paying of tertiary fees after level 100, what next?
All right. So first of all, let's start from basic because that is the bedrock. That's the foundation of our educational system.
Yeah.
You get a basic wrong, it doesn't matter what you do at the secondary and tertiary level, the child will still lose something.
True.
And the NDC is appalled and very worried about the deteriorating standards at the basic level.
Okay.
Capitation grant has been in arrears for more than 2 years. That's more than 6 terms. And the capitation grant is the money that government is supposed to pay to the schools for the running of the schools, to buy chalk, to buy provisions and all that. Textbooks have been lacking after almost 6 years after the introduction of a new curriculum. The people there don't even have the basic curriculum-based textbooks. And we are beginning to see an alarming increase in schools under trees.
Yes.
Because nothing has been done to sustain and continue the aggressive program that the actual NDC government rolled out to eliminate schools under trees. We are getting more schools under trees. Today in Ghana, there are children sitting on bare floors.
Yeah.
In basic schools. It is an eyesore. And so we are going to start from there. We have a Bright Beginnings initiative in our manifesto that goes all the way down to the kindergarten level. And we are going to ensure that basic schools, at least the public ones, get the necessary subventions, they get their capitation grant on time, textbooks on time. We need to get them the textbooks immediately for learning. We need to make sure they have access to Wi-Fi, they have access to ICT facilities, okay, to study and all that. So that, and we need to also invest in teacher motivation at that level.
Very important.
And teacher supervision to increase or to improve standards there. So if you go into our manifesto, you will see a lot more details there. And when you come out with any questions on basic, maybe I can drill deeper and discuss some of the things we'll be doing there. Now, from there, you go to secondary.
Yeah.
At the secondary level, affordability, the affordability concern has been partially addressed with free SHS, okay? The challenge at the moment has to do with, number one, the erratic nature of the academic calendar. Today, the SHS students go to school for barely 1 month. And they come and sit home for 2 months. When we were going to secondary school, we all went to school together across the country for 3 months. And then you come for your vacation. So you are able to focus. You have 3 straight months in school being taught, studying and all that. Look, let's put politics aside. That system, that single track system, is far better than the current traffic light double track system.
Don't you think they did that because of the number of people who
Exactly.
and
that is why
infrastructure.
Exactly. And that is why if you have been implementing this policy for close to 8 years, you should have rolled out the necessary infrastructure to absorb the increased numbers. When Kofo increased the duration of secondary education from 3 years to 4 years without providing 1 classroom block, the Mills NDC government averted a double track system. Because by increasing the duration from 3 years to 4 years, do you remember that?
Yes.
Good. We would have had a double track system on our hands because there was no classroom blocks and dormitories for level 400.
Yes.
How did we have a double track? Because in 1 year, John Evans at Mills of blessed memory and John Mahama rolled out an aggressive infrastructure drive that ensured that we had dormitories, classroom blocks, and all that for the additional 1 stream. That was what averted a double track. So the same thing is what we're going to do. Within our first year, John Mahama will roll out an aggressive infrastructure plan. We're going to complete all the abandoned e-blocks and other educational related facilities. Complete all of them, expand existing ones, and even build new ones. It's going to be a topmost priority of the next NDC.
Within the first year.
Within the first year. And what we're going to do is that we are going to leverage the facilities of the private SHS. Because there are over 200 to 400 private senior high schools in Accra and across Ghana. And some of them have better facilities in terms of classroom blocks, dormitories, and so on, than even some of the public schools. Why have we left the private schools out of the implementation scope of free SHS? So John Mahama will be adding them, and by adding them, we get more facilities in addition to the ones we'll be building and completing to eradicate double track. So that is the first thing we're going to do. Once you eradicate double track and you increase contact hours, you will be improving quality. The second thing is that at the secondary level, still the students don't have access to the necessary textbooks. So we are going to provide them with the necessary textbooks. We are going to also invest in teacher motivation. We've spoken about the things we'll be doing for teachers to motivate them. Their promotion is going to be a topmost priority for us. We're bringing back the teacher vehicle tax waiver policy. We're bringing up a mortgage policy for them, okay, that will allow them to own houses as loans, which they'll be paying over 10 to 15 years from their salaries and all that. So we're going to invest a lot in teacher motivation. We bring in the teacher that bread policy, which will ensure that for every new school we build, a befitting teachers bungalow will be attached to it. We're going to give them 20% allowance of their basic salary anytime they accept posting to a rural area. So all these things we'll do to motivate the teachers at that level. The third thing we're going to do is on feeding. Because at the secondary level, today, if you look at the food people are eating, you weep. You see rice and stew, and the stew is looking like soup. And even with the soup, there is water here. I mean, unwholesome food. We've seen them in documentaries, shot not by the NDC, but by reputable media organizations like Multimedia. And it is because government has centralized the procurement of food. In every region, in every district of Ghana, there is Nkontomire, there is rice, there is beans, there is gari, there is pepper, there is tomatoes. How come that under Akufo-Addo and Bawomia's free SHS, all that is bought from Accra and sent to the schools? Because somebody wants to benefit from the procurement. That is where the corruption is. Jobs for the boys. The women organizers are doing it. And that is where they are making the money, increasing the bills. We are saying, no, we are going back to the old system. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. The old system was not broke, it worked fine. Give the schools their money so that they can to procure their own food locally, to even boost the local economy. Because if they go to the market there and they are buying the rice from there, the beans from there, the gari from there, the yam from there, they are boosting the local economy there. So the feeding, the textbooks, teacher motivation, eliminating double track, and more importantly, providing a dedicated source of funding for the policy. Because free SHS now is pay as you go. For cover. There is no dedicated source of funding for the policy. So government comes, they look at oil money here, they look at the budget, they take money from here. So most of the times they are owning the schools, they are not paying. The headmasters cannot talk. You talk, we will transfer you. The money is not going. You go to even Wesley girls. And today, Wesley girls of all places, girls are sleeping on bare floors. And you look at the prospectus of new entrants into the schools today, the things they tell them to buy. Some of us, when we're going to SHS, we were never told to buy those things because the monies are not there. And they have to find a nice way of getting parents to support without infuriating the government. Because these guys, once you expose that there is even a challenge, they come after you. So John Mahama has said that Ghana got independence on 6th of March 1957. But for most of these heads of these secondary schools, their second independence will be on the 7th of January 2025 by the grace of God when John Mahama is sworn in as president. So these are some of the things we will do to improve the quality of SHS. I don't know whether you want me to add the tertiary.
I have something to say
on
about
SHS.
That. We keep hearing funding. And I'll ask this question again. Within that first year, how are you going to be able to build these infrastructure? Already we know how the country's economic issue is. Which money are you going to use in building these new schools?
Aside that,
adding up to these buildings already, and then the teacher incentive tax and all these things.
Because that's not the only thing you want to do in your first year. And so it seems like your first year is going to be very packed.
And we know
we haven't even touched on other things that you're also going to do in your first year.
Do you know the total revenue of Ghana?
The total revenue of Ghana.
The total tax revenue of Ghana, or even the total revenue of Ghana, and how much we need to do that. It's not mission impossible, like you said. It's all about priorities. I go back to that. Look, even in the midst of the hardships we are going through, the economic bankruptcy, we've defaulted on our debts and all that. Government is still running. With how many ministers?
A lot.
They're still paying them.
Yeah, a lot.
Right? they buy them V8s, they buy them saloon cars.
It has been there always.
Yes. So
it has been going
regardless of government.
It's
been there already. Then they pay their DSTV bills. Then they pay their utility bills. Okay? They do all these things for them. And they go for one cabinet retreat and they spend 4.8 million cedis. No, just on the cabinet retreats, not on allowance.
Not even in.
The tea they drank and the bread they ate, the papers they bought, for 48 billion cedis. They celebrate one CIS match in Cape Coast and they spend 10.4 million cedis. Match pass, CIS match, which is 104 billion cedis. They spend over 100 million on the rental of luxurious private jets. Spend over $1 billion on a hole for God. They do all these things. Now, under John Mahama, he is going to run government with not more than 60 ministers.
Not more than 60.
Not more than 60, plus regional ministers. He is going to cancel the payment of DSTV utility bills for all his ministers and his appointees. He has said that. He is the only presidential candidate in this region who has said that. He's going to abolish ex gratia. He says he's going to reduce the number of presidential staffers at the presidency significantly. When Mahama was leaving office, the total allocation to the Office of Government Machinery was just about 400 million. It went up to 700 million. That was the highest. It hit over 3 billion in 2022. As I speak to you, it's over 2 billion. that is going to be slashed by more than half. Where do you think that those savings will go? It will go into the building of schools for our children, providing education so that our children can have a future. It will go into the creation of jobs. It will go into investment for infrastructure. When John Mahama was president, he was not borrowing and throwing Wache and Kinky parties to celebrate borrowing. He was borrowing for legacy investments, which can pay for themselves and deliver benefits to the people. Do you know that we built what is today the best airport in the whole of West Africa, airport terminal in the whole of West Africa, Terminal 3, under John Mahama, without central government, Buluwine Peswa? John Mahama had to support the Ghana Airport Company to retain 100% of their IGF instead of paying about 60% to central government. He helped them to retain or to improve their financial books so that on the strength of their own books, they could raise the needed money for that. Do you know that we are almost done paying for that airport? Because it processes over 3 million passengers a year. Do you know the biggest factory in the history of Ghana? Do you know that? It is what we call the Tuabo gas processing factory. $1 billion US. Started by mills, completed by Mahama. We built it with a Chinese facility. Right?
Yeah.
Now, do you know that it saves us almost $300 million a year and it is almost paying for itself? I can give you many examples.
So
that is what John Mahama will use the meager resources of state for. Productive, initiatives.
So there's going to be a cut down and reallocation of funds.
Exactly.
Simply, that's what we're going for.
Because, it's like two young guys. One gets a salary and he's at a nightclub, ultra bets. And at a nightclub, on a girl's a chile, or you say, the other gets the same amount of money and he's saving. He has bought a land somewhere. He's building a 3-bedroom there. He's doing this for the parents and all that. So it's about priorities.
Okay, great. It's exciting. The whole talk. Now, I want us to move on to something that's
what about
really
the tertiary? You don't want to talk about that?
See, I want to touch on something else that I know that you really want to.
Don't rush the issues. You can always get me back here. Tell your producer
because
that.
Honestly,
it's important to exhaust the issues than to touch on many issues without your audience getting a good understanding of the issues. So on the tertiary level, which is very important, you see, we have seen that there is a certain obstacle that the students face when they are transiting from secondary to tertiary. And it's at the entry level. Today, when you gain admission into University of Ghana or K University, your admission fee alone is about 3,000 or 4,000 or more. How many parents in today's Ghana can afford that? You either go for a loan or you sell your clothes or your belongings and all that. I know children who got 6 A's who couldn't enter tertiary level because the admission fee is too much. And at the entry level, the requirement is that until you pay the fees, you are not a student.
Yes, of course.
Once you enter and you even owe for as a continuing student, you're okay.
Yeah.
You can negotiate. But at the entry level, if you don't pay, you can enter. So John Mahama is saying, let's tackle that problem so that every child who passes his or her WASI can get admission and actually go to tertiary level. So we are absorbing the entire academic fees, not tuition, academic fees. The academic fees is 95% of the admission fee. Let me put it that way.
Okay.
It's 95. It's not the academic facility user fee. That was a communication gap at some point. And neither is it tuition. It is the academic fees. The only thing not included are things like hall dues, SRC dues, and all that. But everything, every fee, payment that has to do with the academics of the child, government will absorb it in full. And we are doing it not just for the universities, but for technical universities, polytechnics, colleges of education, and nursing training institutions. So somebody says that, okay, so after first year, what happens?
Yes.
The first year is the most important thing. Once government does that for the parent and the child enters, he's a student. So if for subsequent years, he's even struggling, at least he's in school. The heavy lifting has been done with the support of government. But as a continuing student, you have access, you have the opportunity to access a student loan. Okay? Now, under the actual NDC Mahama government, we introduced something called Student Loan Plus. An upgraded version of the student loan. So that if the student loan is 2,000, you could go for 7,000 or 5,000 for the payment of your fees. That one was for newly admitted students. But now that the academic fees of newly admitted students will be absorbed, the student loan plans is being brought back this time around for continuing students.
Okay.
So if you're a continuing student moving from level 100 to 200 or 200 to 300, 300 to 400, and you have a problem paying your fees, you apply for student loan plus and you use that to pay.
So that should
after
cater
school,
for continuing.
because of 24-hour economy and the many initiatives we'll be rolling out, you have a better chance of getting a job, and then you pay it gradually. That is the beauty of the initiative.
Okay, seems like a solid plan.
Yeah, correct.
Hopefully people are listening and you're able to change their minds. Now, moving on to something that
I'm
is very
interested
important.
in changing the minds of the three of you first.
Yes. Oh, okay. Well, maybe we'll let you know how it's going, right?
Yeah.
Now, moving on to something that really interests a lot of the youth.
Yes.
We've seen protests, and most of these people who came out were young people, which hasn't been, the thing for a long time. Usually you have older people coming out to protest. This time, the younger people came out because of Galamsey and the fact that we're worried about the future because, we would have to pick it up and take over. And so let's talk about Galamsey. Let's talk about the effect. Let's talk about what the NDC is going to do differently. Now, we're talking about licenses that have been given to some of these companies to, operate in wherever they're operating. Some people actually, I learned that some people can operate and they operate legally and they follow whatever rules have been given them. And so that's why some of these licenses are being given out. But some people are also not following whatever rules. Are you talking about bringing in people who are going to regulate and make sure that people who have licenses are actually going to follow the rules? Would there be a revoking of licenses of people who are not following these rules? Because I think in your tenure or in the tenure of the NDC, some people are actually given licenses to operate in Galamsey. But I mean, the number did skyrocket with the MPP. For that, we know it's very obvious. And so what's going to be done by the NDC if given power?
So you see, the NDC supports mining.
Okay.
Mining is a legitimate venture. And it is a responsibility of every government to encourage their people to take advantage of the opportunities in mining.
Yep.
Because the resources in the ground are for us. And we have vested the interest in the president on our behalf. So the exploitation of our resources, our gold, our manganese, cannot be the preserve of the multinationals like Newmont, like Anglo Gold, like Goldfish. No. Ghanaians must also benefit. Ghanaians have a right to mine. And so the NDC supports mining, both large scale and small scale.
Okay.
This is why it was the NDC that passed the law to allow for only Ghanaians to engage in small scale mining. Okay. So if you're a foreigner, yours is large scale. Small scale mining is a preserve of Ghanaians. And it is a viable, sensible, legitimate action or venture that every government must support. Mining, we need to make that clear. The NDC is not against mining, whether large or small scale.
Okay.
What the NDC is against is illegal and irresponsible mining.
Okay. But Lawyer, what's the difference between small scale mining and illegal or
small scale mining?
Small scale mining and then illegal mining.
Okay, so while in Chi, they use the same word for it. They call small scale mining Galamsey. When you go to the communities.
Yeah.
Because there is the right Chi word will be from a good year too. Okay. But it's complicated, so people call it Galamsey. And illegal mining is also Galamsey. But in the right sense of the word, in English, there are two different things. Small scale mining is allowed by law. It has to do with a Ghanaian who applied to the Minerals Commission for a permit to do exploration, and upon successful exploration, applied for a permit to do prospecting, and upon successful prospecting, applied for a mining lease to do small scale mining. With small scale mining, the requirements are lesser in weight as compared to large scale mining. Okay, in terms of funding, logistics, and so on. So the Ghanaian applies for that. He gets a mining lease, so he has a concession. Then he employs people to go and mine. And because he has the lease is subject to the terms and conditions of that lease. And if he violates those conditions, he's engaging in illegal mining, even though he has a lease. And therefore, that lease has to be revoked and sanctions applied. Illegal mining comes in two forms. Those who have never gone to the Minerals Commission to apply for any mining lease, they don't have any documentation. They are just mining. They don't have documentation. They are mining on the concession of a large-scale company or on an idle concession.
Right.
The second form of illegal mining is what I've already told you. The person has a license, but the methods of mining he's employing are illegal.
Irresponsible.
So if you have a license, but you're mining in water, it is Galamsey. It is illegal mining.
It's illegal.
If you are mining and you're creating shafts and pits without covering them, it is illegal mining.
Okay.
That is what the NDC is against. Because that is a threat to the collective survival of all of us as a people. It's an existential threat.
Yeah.
What is going on currently is madness on steroids, where because of greed and selfishness, government officials and functionaries, apparatchiks of the ruling government, have been given forest reserves, which were red zones under John Mahama. Now they've been given forest reserves, Wuntumi, Sampai, all of them, to go and destroy our forest reserves. Look at the name, forest reserve.
Okay, so
they go and destroy it and they pollute the water bodies from there, because all the rivers take their source from the forest reserves, and that is where the pollution happens. So we have said, John Mahama is the only person in this race who has said that to fight this menace of illegal mining, his government will ban mining in forest reserves, number one. Number two, his government will ban any appointee or government official from engaging in any mining business, whether legal or illegal, to prevent conflict of interest. Because if you are even doing it legally, how do you expect the same government to enforce the laws against you and to check you? Because of your privileged position in government, the laws will not be enforced dispassionately. So if John Mahama says, if you want to do mining, you go and do your mining.
And leave government.
Don't be my government official. That is it. Number three, we are going to take an inventory of all small-scale mining concessions and review the activities of the owners. If we find any evidence of illegal mining on your concession, whether you have the documents or not, you are doing illegal mining, because you have a document, but you're mining in water. You have the necessary documentation, but you're not covering the pits, you're not reclaiming the land. We will revoke your license from you and we will prosecute you. Number four, all government officials who have engaged in extorting monies from people so that they can engage in illegal mining, stealing excavators, and giving it to their party apparatchiks, mining in our forest reserves, destroying our communities, destroying our lands, destroying our water bodies, we are going to prosecute all of them, punish all of them to serve as a deterrent to others. Because until you do that, there will be no deterrence. Others will follow suit. Then we are going to take...
Lawyer,
let me end on this one. Let me end on this one. Then we are going to take reclamation very seriously. So we are going to roll out something called the Blue Water Initiative and Tree for Life Initiative. And through Tree for Life, Tree for Life will not be normal trees. We're planting rubber, we'll be planting cash crops to reclaim the devastated forest reserves and the fauna, the flora we have lost. We are also, through the Blue Water Initiative, we're going to use modern technologies to reclaim the polluted, the cyanide, mercury polluted water bodies that pregnant women are drinking and suffering from damaged fetus. Children are suffering from all manner of skin diseases. Some are even giving birth to children without limbs, without eyes, with many deformities. We are going to treat all those water bodies and reclaim them. Then finally, we're going to roll out a new initiative. We're going to introduce or establish an institution, a cocoa board for good, and we call it Ghana Gold Board. So like you have cocoa board for cocoa, you're going to have Ghana Gold Board for gold. And this Ghana Gold Board will regulate small-scale mining, will provide the needed training capacity building for licensed small-scale miners on responsible mining and modern technologies for mining. We'll support them with the necessary technology, the necessary training, and even attach graduates from UMATs to small-scale mining concessions to support them on responsible mining. So this is a summary of what John Mahama and the NDC will do differently to nip this canker of illegal mining in the bud before it consumes all of us.
Okay.
The water bodies that have been destroyed, what is going to be done about that?
I spoke about that. I spoke about Blue Water Initiative.
Reclaiming
And Blue Water Initiative, you see, there are technologies. There are certain chemicals that when you put it in the water, all the silt that has made it coffee brown today will settle.
Okay.
And the water will become clear. And there are technologies for cleaning it. And the most important thing is that when you do it, you must employ the necessary water wardens. We will call them river wardens. And these river wardens will have boot camps and all that, patrolling the river bodies in the forest reserves and also in the public space to ensure that they don't get polluted again. Because you can clean the water today, but tomorrow if you allow people to mine in the forest reserves and in the water bodies again, you pollute it.
Yeah. Anyway, lawyer, I think that one of the key things that you've identified is that oversight has been a problem. Oversight has been a major contributor to the problems that we're facing. And you've outlined the fact that His Excellency John Mahama, when he comes into power, hopefully will, prosecute or see to it that people who have been perpetrators of these acts that have led to some of the problems and challenges that we're facing will be prosecuted. But in the history of Ghanaian politics, people have been of the belief or the notion that politicians is one cassette, it's side A and side B. So it's just, it depends on which side you're playing, you understand me? Now, we hear of political parties and leaders talking about prosecuting government officials, especially from opposition parties who have been involved in things that lead to the deterioration of our systems and stuff over here. But we haven't had that happen because there's a notion once again that they share the same interest.
Well, that's never true.
So I was looking up.
That is never true.
I was looking up politicians who have been prosecuted by the opposition in governance, and then the only person that I saw, and correct me if I'm wrong, was Abuga Pele, who was prosecuted in 2018 and given presidential pardon in 2021
that was
on
our
health.
own MP,
Exactly,
our
NDC,
own
yes.
government appointee.
In 2021, a presidential pardon on the basis of health reasons. There have been other government officials who were involved in legal cases, but even Osafo Mafu, right? But then the case was let go because insufficient evidence.
Government's responsibility is to prosecute.
Right.
Conviction. That's why I didn't say convict. I said we will prosecute. Conviction is done by the court. So even under the Sumbiehene, who was father for all, and who decided that he wanted to unite the nation, and so they didn't want to go after many of the corrupt officials of the Kufuor government. Even under him, the Reku base were prosecuted for Ghana at 50. There are many people who were prosecuted, but the court said, "Oh, you set up a commission of inquiry, and the findings of a commission of inquiry are punitive. So to prosecute them again will be double jeopardy."
Right.
So it was on that technical ground that some of them were set free. So it is not true that even under the Asumdwehine, the father for all, prosecutions were not done. Prosecutions were done. But look, the John Mahama of today...
No convictions.
Yeah, but that's what I've explained to you, that the government can only prosecute. The conviction must be done by the courts. But listen, all that is in the past. And all that was under the man of peace, that's Asumdwehine. I'm not saying that John Mahama will not be a father for all. He will be father for all in the context of being there serving the entire nation, irrespective of one's political affiliation. But he will not be a father for all who decides to forgive wrongdoing or criminality. And the John Mahama coming is like Jesus. He said he came first as the lamb, but the second coming is coming as the lion of the tribe of Judah. This John Mahama is not a father for all in the context of just turning a blind eye to wrongdoing in the name of unity or peace. My brother, we will roll out what we call Operation Recover All the Loot, oral. Nobody will be spared. And that sword, that oral sword, will cut both ways against NDC government officials and MPP officials. nobody will be spared. And John Mahama has demonstrated that before. He's the only president under the Fourth Republic who has prosecuted his own friend, somebody he served in parliament with. Anytime I talk about this, I get emotional because he's somebody I know. His own appointee, his own friend. He allowed the laws to work. And it was not only that. Under John Mahama, you know the lady called Victoria Hammer?
Hammer, yeah.
She committed no crime. She was just having a friendly, informal conversation with a friend.
It was recorded.
She didn't know she was being recorded. And she said, if I get $1 million, I won't do politics again. John Mahama ensured that she resigned. That was how high the standard of accountability was under John Mahama. And today people say politicians are all the same. When, in the case of Akufo-Addo, when we see over $1.5 million under the beds of ministers, Akufo-Addo can issue a statement and say that, oh, I'm very sure that you are innocent, you'll be acquitted. Under John Mahama, merely dreaming of getting $1 million could get you a sack.
All right.
Listen, under John Mahama, 500 excavators missing just like that. We never heard of something like that. Heads would have rolled. By now, would have found excavators. People would have been prosecuted by now. Do you recall what? Go and read what John Mahama did in the National Service case. In the case of ghost names. All those people were sacked. None was spared. Bas Brandon, nothing illegal. But because he didn't follow procurement law, the minister had to resign. The monies, 3.6 million cedis, retrieved for the state. Under the JIDA scandal, 50 million cedis retrieved for the state from the private company. So look, my brother, let nobody deceive you. That as for politicians, it has to do with different sides of the same coin.
No, but we're talking
we
about
are
the
nothing.
point.
Listen, to compare the MPP to the NDC is to compare light with darkness. We are nothing like them. Bawumia and the Akufo-Addo, can Mahama stand on the podium and say that vote for me and I'll build you concrete roads? Because Ghana has gone beyond asphalt roads. Can Mahama stand in the church and say that?
No, of course.
Never. Can Mahama tell you that vote for me and in 18 months no community in Ghana will have a water or toilet problem? Like Bawumia said, vote for me and I'll move you from taxation to production. Good people of Cape Coast, we are building for you an ultramodern airport and harbour when he was not laying a foundation anywhere. You see, Mahama is trustworthy. I work with a man and I know that that man is genuine to the heart, to the core. He will not tell a lie when he knows that this is a lie. Like Bawumia does. He's credible. Bawumia is not credible. He is not corrupt.
Yeah.
He has proven to be incorruptible. 8 years after leaving office, he is proven to be squeaky clean. Special prosecutor has investigated him. UK, they have investigated him. Not a scintilla of evidence of wrongdoing or corruption against him. Don't forget that this is a man who has been deputy minister, MP for 3 terms, vice president, and president. All his life dedicated to public service. Not even one evidence of corruption. Let nobody tell you that politicians are the same. Well, we are not the same. That is why under NDC, you never heard any NDC regional chairman like who to me in the MPP or NDC government official like Sampine mining in the forest reserve. Who born dog? In John Mahama's government, you can't do that. So, you see, when you allow them to do that equalization, we are all the same, we are all the same. Those are the words of disappointed MPP members, which now neutral people are buying into. It is not true. We are all not the same. And within our first 3 months in office, you will realize that we are all not the same.
All right.
When Operation Recover All Loot begin to go after these thieves who have destroyed our country.
Now, when and if you become our next government, when I hear you, our next, government or our next leaders, hopefully we get to see all the things that you're saying. Thank you so much, lawyer Sammy Gyamfi, for coming on to Flex Your Vote. Like you're saying, it would be nice to have you on here because we have way more questions for you, and the youth want answers as to how their problems are going to be fixed. We didn't even touch on the creatives, but hopefully if we get you again, we can have that conversation with you. Thank you once again for coming, from Amy Kojotrip and myself. Lovely people at home, we've had a very insightful time over here learning about the policies that the NDC has planned for the nation Ghana. If you decide to make them your next government, these are some of the things that you would expect would take place in the country. Hopefully, they stick to their word if or when given the mandate to rule us. But expect us on the next episode of Flex Your Vote, where we're going to bring another person to have another insightful conversation with. But till then, my name is Sofa. I did this with Amy Cherry and Kojo Trip. I'll see you another time. Adios.